Hi. Happy Sunday. Happy Sunday. The Sunday of Thanksgiving weekend. And I want to just invite us to do a better job of what we do. Because what happens is, we have these holidays and we're all in it and we're all excited about it for a couple of minutes, meaning like maybe 2 days after. But tomorrow's Monday and we go back to our lives, whatever that entails. And it's real easy to slip from all this feelings of gratitude that we've been having for these last 4 days. So, whatever it is that we need to do, we might need to keep some of the food going because, when you look at cranberry sauce, what do you think about? Come on, right? So, it'll bring you back, or whatever it is that you do. For me, it's sweet potato pie, right? So, if I'm making sweet potato pie, that is almost automatically going to bring me into this consciousness and this awareness of gratitude, because gratitude is so, so important. It is vital, vital. And I'm using that word vital as in important to life, right? Gratitude is important to our living and to our being whole on the planet. And we're going to drill into that a little bit. But first, I like to start after my prologue there. I'd like to start as I do with a little prayer. And so if you feel comfortable allowing your eyes to fall shut, please join me in knowing that indeed Oludumare, the divine, the good to which there is no opposite, resonates in, through, and as each and every one of us in whatever sanctuaries we may be in. And particularly for those of us that allow ourselves to reside in and come from the sanctuary of the heart, I declare that there is an expanded heart to heart connection, a heart to heart communication, and a heart to heart knowing that Oludumare, God, the good, to which there is no opposite, that is absolutely all there is, ever has been, and ever will be, that resonates in, through, and as each one of us is doing a hoorah dance today. And so it is with a sense of deep and humble gratitude that I release this word to the immutable, perfect, and impeccable law that always and in always simply says yes. Ashe, amen, amen, aho, and so it is. And so it is. So and some of you may know, but I'm going to put it out there anyway so that we can all be kind of on the same page with this. So Nancy, I said, introduce yourself. She said, my name is Nancy, and I'm going to give her Reverend Nancy. She's Reverend Nancy. And the reason I'm doing that is not to lift up titles or anything like that, but I am doing that because I'm calling her out. And I'm calling her out to extend that ministry that she described. We understand that that's what she was talking about, right? In her travels and her connecting, to extend that ministry, not just as she herself said, because she also made a commitment up here, right? She said, yes, I'm walking the world with my ministry, but to extend it through her teaching others how to do the same, by inviting others to do the same, because that's the place where you don't have to have the Rev in front of the name to do the work. We are all, each and every one called upon to be in the world in such a sweet and sacred way that we are literally a healing presence. Amen. So to bring that from the abstract down to the real, I'm going to call out somebody else. I'm going to call out Ellen. Because when I walked in, Ellen walked over to me, and in a not routine, how you doing? How are you? You know how we do that because we're trained to do that from little kids, from being 3 years old. When you meet new people or when you see people, you ask them how they are. You say, "How are you today?" Right? Not that. Not that. From a heart space, she looked at me. She looked in me, is really what I'm going to say. And she said, "How are you today?" And there was something in the way that she did that cracked me wide open, right? That brought me then to a place where I could be so centered that when Kathy then later took us through our honoring of the ancestors, I was okay with my friend, my sister, Reverend Sandra Saunders West, being the face that popped up and said, "I love you, and you go, girl." And Reverend Sandra made her transition on Thursday, on Thanksgiving Day. And I had the honor and the privilege to be with her family around that experience. And in that, it turned into a gratitude session. Every family member, every friend, every person that came through spontaneously spoke gratitude into the room for their opportunity, for having had the experience of being in her life and having her in theirs, right? So we can go into platitudes about a life well lived, but what I am charging us, and I'm saying us because I am so deeply included myself, is to really take this idea of gratitude, this idea of exploring the grace of gratitude. That's our monthly theme. That's our theme for this month of November, the grace of gratitude. To take that not just as a, well, you know, we had to come up with a theme, and Thanksgiving is in November, so it needs to be something around being thankful and gratitude and all that. Doesn't that sound good? I invite us to instead look at what we teach, right? And so what we teach is that there are no accidents, that this opportunity in this year, 2023, to anchor ourselves, not just for the now, but for the going forward in gratitude with all the things that are going on the planet, is not accidental. We didn't set this theme yesterday or a couple of weeks ago. These themes are set as much as a year in advance, right? And invariably, and I invite you again, go back through the calendar. There has been a synchronicity with the themes, with whatever was going on in the world, that were we not God having a human experience, we might think was just accidental. But because we know we are the divine having a human experience, then we know that there is a divine order that weaves itself through each and every activity. We know that every time we gather, that we are building on those platforms that we have established that says, yes, use me. That says, yes, send me. That says, yes, I am the one. That says, yes, I'm grateful for the gratitude. This idea of allowing the power of gratitude to put us in touch with the essence of our lives is not an exaggeration. Because when we list and think about and allow ourselves to focus on and be in what we're grateful for, we oftentimes surprise ourselves. We oftentimes, particularly if we've given ourselves a task, like I'm going to name 25 things that I'm grateful for. And then we start with, the regulars. I'm grateful that I'm breathing. I'm grateful that I'm walking. I'm grateful that I, most of the time, have my right mind about me. I'm grateful for my car, for my house, for my children, I'm grateful for my friends. I'm grateful for the one that showed up when I most had the need. I'm grateful for the doctor that brought the answer to what seemed to be the incurable thing. And as we are getting deeper in that gratitude, we get to see how much we have to be grateful for. We get to surprise ourselves. And at the same time, the very act of doing that is expanding our spiritual presence in such a way. And I know we've all experienced this, that when we walk the world, number one, we attract people. And number two, perfect strangers say, oh my God, you are just glowing today. That's what it means to be the light of the world. It means to do that spiritual practice. Gratitude as a link to grace, and grace is unearned favor, right? Grace is just cause. And the just cause is because you are, because you exist, you have grace. Because either we elected to be in a body or somebody elected to pull us into a body. However that worked out, whatever the first cause is there, it really doesn't matter because you're here now. You're here now. And in this being here now, we get to remember grace. We get to remember that every breath is by right of grace. We get to remember that as we are walking the world, that grace informs our privilege. And we all have some kind of privilege. Some have type A, some have type B, some have type C, D, and I'm not talking about diabetes, y'all. Just so you know. We all have some kind of privilege that we walk the world with. So again, the invitation is to be conscious of it, is to be aware of it. And this gratitude practice, it's a spiritual practice, just like prayer. And I know these lists just keep getting longer. They need to make these preachers go someplace and sit down and stop putting all this stuff out here. Well, I'm not. We have our prayer, we have meditation, we have visioning, we have affirmation, and we have gratitude. High five. High five. We have gratitude as a spiritual practice. It is appreciation for all that has been given, both as a recognition of what we have and as affirmations for all that we are becoming. I am grateful for the way in which Platinum Butterfly Focus Ministry unfolds, for the ways in which it blesses everyone that this ministry touches in every way that it touches them. That's an affirmation. I'm still putting together my website. That's an affirmation. Do we hear that? That dual purpose of our gratitude. I'm grateful for what's going on, and I'm grateful for what I am co-creating. I am a follower of Richard Rohr. Yes, I am a New Thought metaphysical minister, and I am a follower of the Catholic priest, Richard Rohr. He has an entity, I'm going to call it, called the Center for Action and Contemplation. And he sends out these daily, what do I want to call them? Well, they're messages. They're daily messages. And, you know, it's one of those you can sign up and you can get a message. And like us, Richard Rohr has an annual theme. And his annual theme for this year is the prophetic path. The prophetic path. Now, in traditional Christianity, the prophets, there are a number of books in the Bible that are named after the prophets. The prophets are the ones that said, this is going to happen, this is going to happen, this is going to happen. In the New Testament, we see lots of reference back to the prophet, to the prophets. They say, and as the prophet Elijah said, such and such and such and such is happening. See, it's like a I told you so, right? So what we're invited to do in considering this idea of the prophetic path, of stepping onto the prophetic path, we are invited to use our spiritual tools as well as all of our other tools to co-create that world that for me, in which everyone has the opportunity to thrive, co-create that world that works for everyone. That's what we say at CSL, at Centers for Spiritual Living. Co-create that world where there is peace on earth. Co-create that world where food, clothing, shelter, and education, I always have to add a little something, something, just so you know, that's how I roll. So yes, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. I think education needs to be right in there with food, clothing, and shelter, right? Because education allows us, it gives us the tools to explore, to learn, to see, and to understand that there is nothing that we can't do when we apply ourselves to it. To understand that, as the physicist Neil deGrasse Tyson, I think most of us are familiar with him. Some of us refer to him as the Black physicist, right? Come on, just saying. I'm just saying. And right there in that, by the way, I promise you, I can't stand here and name them, but I promise you that there are other Black physicists walking around on the planet. Just saying. This is part of our expanding, because we've got to expand what we believe, how we see, how we walk the world in order to create a world that doesn't keep us in anxiety and stress. I think there is no one on this planet right now that is not feeling some kind of stress. Now, we may not talk about it. We may not want to upfront it, which I'm suggesting that, yes, we upfront it so that we can put some healing energy on it, so that we can be there for each other, so that, as Ellen did with me, somebody, you can walk up to somebody and see that they're feeling it. And you see that they're feeling it, by the way, because you're feeling it. Right? We know that I can't see anything, including the bad stuff, that I don't have some kind of idea, understanding about myself. Education, including our spiritual education, gives us the opportunity to gather the tools and the courage to walk the world in a way that we see each other. And as we understand that when we're seeing each other, we're seeing ourselves, that might invite us to be more embracing, more inclusive of our role as a healing presence. But back to Brother Neil. Brother Neil said, we're all connected to each other biologically, one, to the earth chemically, two. Now that's that piece where we understand that every element, including the undiscovered ones that exist in the universe, exists somewhere in here, in this thing that we call body. Yes? And to the rest of the universe atomically. Atomically, right? I'm just going to do that again. We're all, he didn't say some of us, some people. He didn't say most people. We're all connected to each other biologically, to the earth, chemically, and to the rest of the universe atomically. Dr. Barbara Holmes, who I am quoting from, says, our solidarity is the result of scientific fact as well as the action of, and now I'm paraphrasing it, putting it in new thought terms, because this is not what she said, as well as the action of the Christ that exists within each one of us that guides us to this holy and sacred place. She says, even our call to solidarity is exemplified by the divine, is exemplified, that it already exists, that the whole way that the thing is put together, this thing called a universe, the whole way it interacts with each other is already in existence. We don't have to reinvent that. We just have to acknowledge it and live from it. As my mandatory commercial, I must share that I am 1,000% certain that the exchange of hostages and prisoners is a result of prayer, is the result of the spiritual work that's being done on the planet, is the result of the rabbis and the imams and the ministers and the nuns and the priests and the lay people, right? Because the lay people are the people that are up in it. The lay people are the people that are saying, that's my baby. The lay people are the people that are praying from the heart. Not from the because it's nice, because we should, but from the heart, that are putting the feelings in it. And again, circling back, that when we recognize that we live in and from grace, we have the opportunity to practice gratitude in such a way that we all come from the heart. Ernest Holmes says, and he is talking about being grateful. He says, well, before he says, I say, we have the opportunity to season our minds and hearts with the power and presence of who and whose we are. I'm taking that from the old church. You know, they say, some of them with arrogance yet say, I know who and whose I am. Jesus has got me. Well, guess what, baby? We got Jesus. We got the Christ. And in our surrender to that, we are seasoning our minds and our lives, and we are allowing ourselves to expand our presence in the world in such a way that we not only experience gratitude as a sacred interaction, but we create more, we attract more. Our gratitude expands our living. Our gratitude gives us what we need for our individual and collective lives. It creates the space for it. Taste and see, y'all. Now back to Uncle Ernie. Ernest Holmes says what he interprets as the Christian theology of grace. He says, not grace because Jesus was a nice guy. That is weakness. Grace because the universe is itself an infinite givingness. It can't help it. That is its nature. And because it is in our own experience, and because it is in our own experience, only the one who gives all who gets all. It is only the one who gives all that gets all. Yes, we're talking about our money and our finances, but more importantly and more critically, we're talking about our love. We're talking about our heart. We're talking about remembering that we live in, through, and as grace. And so we're talking about our gratitude. We're talking about taking time to be with one to another. And finally, again, from Ernest Holmes, he says, there isn't any other prescription. That is it. As you give, you get. And again, we're talking about all the things. For some of us, it's real easy to give up some money, right? But you want me to engage my feelings? What? Maybe later. You know how those pop-ups come and they say, would you like to take our survey? And because they can't handle no emotionally, the options are yes or maybe later, right? Because they can't take a no. They can't just put a no, really, I'm not interested in your survey. He says, the eternal circuits, because there is a justice without a judgment, and that justice is merely, this is Ernest Holmes, merely the balance and equilibrium of the universe. Justice prevails. Justice will prevail. How long it takes is up to us, individually and collectively. We can keep dragging our feet. Tina Turner said, what did she say in that song? It can be rough or it can be easy. Gratitude and grace are our paths to having it be easy. Ernest Holmes goes on to say, we suffer not because of the judgment imposed upon us, but because of the judgment of ignorance. We suffer because of the judgment of ignorance. I invite us to consider that ignorance is, and in fact, these days we actually have a phrase for it, that ignorance is at times deliberate. I am choosing not to know. I am inviting us to consider time's up. Time is up. We don't have those options of choosing ignorance. We don't have those options of choosing not to participate. We have the delightful option of stepping on the prophetic path where we accurately, this is from dictionary.com, where we accurately, because we are co-creators with the divine, where we accurately describe or predict what will happen in the future. The prophetic path is calling our names. Say yes. Say yes, step up, and step out. Last little piece of this prophetic path that I'm inviting us to step onto. The prophetic path, per Richard Rohr, says that there is a way of moving toward winning that includes losing. There is a way of winning that includes losing. It's what you've often heard him call perfection. It is the inclusion of imperfection. And specifically, what he says about that is it means we take 2 steps forward and 1 step backward. I invite us to both slow our roll, because that's what that 2 steps forward does, 2 steps forward and 1 step backward, and accelerate our consciousness. Because as we do those things, we're able to take a deeper dive into the moment, and we're able to bless and to appreciate and to be grateful for the love that is in the very essence of all of it. Ashe, amen, amen, aho. And so it is. Thank you.